What about your memories of matches with Magnum TA?
Probably one of the most intense, stiffest guys I've ever been in the ring with. And stiff means, buddy, he would knock your head off. And no other way to put it. Those days, Magnum was about 255 and in that weight room constantly and intense as anybody. He was hungry. He was starving. He wanted to be the best wrestler in the world. And, buddy, he let you know it every time out there. But it was always a money match when you were in it. No problem with fan involvement. They were into it. They loved him. And he would have been one of the greatest of all time if it hadn't been for the tragedy.
When that happened, the car accident, I mean, how was the locker room affected? Pretty devastating.
Killed us all. It was the first situation I'd been in the business where you had a tragedy of that magnitude. I'd seen every injury you could see. There weren't a lot of paralyzed situations in those days because the style of wrestling was a lot more. There wasn't a lot of stuff going on off the top rope, which has caused a lot more injuries. I mean, I saw the knees being blown out, the broken ankles, the cracked ribs. I saw the standard injuries, but car wreck, and they said, we went up there first thing the next morning, and first thing they told us is, he may not make it through the night tonight. He probably won't. That just takes your breath. Here's one of the guys laying there, one of your friends, and we were so close. Jim Crockett Promotions in those days, the guys were so close, you have no idea. The rivalry was always there, the competitiveness, but we were like a traveling band of gypsies because there wasn't a lot of flying going on at first. It was get in your car and go, sometimes 600 miles, round trip, and a lot of times, 800 miles round trip. And when you're in a car 4 deep for 600-700 miles every day of the week, there's a lot of camaraderie, and you're with those same guys. No such thing as a day off. In 85, 86, and 87, there was no such thing as a day off. 7 days a week. Boom. Jim Crockett, we never took a day down except for Christmas. So, it hurt us. It's like your brother being paralyzed.
How did the idea of the Horsemen come about?
The way the situation was set up for interviews with Jim Crockett, there were, I think, 228 interviews, and you would sometimes have more than one guy in a given interview segment talking about his match. Well, obviously, Tully and Ric had been partners. Ole and I had been partners. Ric and Ole had been partners. So we were set up to have, I think, Tully must have been wrestling Dusty. Ric was wrestling somebody for the world title, maybe Magnum. Ole and I think, were wrestling the Road Warriors. So they used us all on this one interview. And it just came to mind, the old Four Horsemen of the apocalypse, scenario, the pestilence and all this. I used that kind of in that interview. Okay, when we come to X town, when it's over, this is what will be left when the Four Horsemen ride into town. And it just popped in my head. It was just an excerpt. When the interview was over, Tony Schiavone came around the camera and he said, you've just stumbled onto something here. You've named this group.
Right.
And we went with it.
It took off.
He pointed it out. We used it from that day, and it was a fluke.
Was there ever any problems with egos in the Horsemen at all? Or?
There was always ego problems as far as personal.
Right.
Things outside the business, bell to bell. The thing that made the Horsemen, I think, so great was the unselfishness. The fact that nobody tried to rise above anyone else. Everybody did their part. Everybody pulled their load. And what we tried to do is basically outdo each other. If Tully and I were on, hypothetically, right before Ric, or if it was Ole and I that were on right before Tully and Tully was right before Ric, we tried to outdo Tully. Tully tried to outdo Ric.
Right,
and it was that competitive. Still the show. That was the only, if you can call, tension between the Horsemen. It was all positive. But, you know, when we're in those 8-mans and war games and everything, strictly business.
What was Ole like as a partner?
The greatest single learning experience I've ever had. He taught me more about tag wrestling in that short time than anyone has since. And it's knowledge I've been able to pass on because it's timeless. He and Gene put together some simple formulas that worked, and they still work today. Problem is you don't have anyone with the knowledge out there or the willingness to put them into place.
Right.
You know, if a team came along that was coached properly, and at some point I'd love to have that opportunity to put some of those principles back into play. They were the best. They are the best. When the time capsule's cracked open, they'll still be the best.
Now, was it hard being heels since you guys were so over with the male audience?
It was easy bell to bell. It was hard trying to check into your hotel and walk the airports
Right.
and sit down and have a meal because the people loved us. You know, it was just that bad boy. It was the beginning of that bad boy era where they still loved the good guys, but it was starting to become that generation, late 80s, where everybody kind of liked a bit of a renegade.
Right.
And we were kind of the first group of guys that were that way, but it wasn't a low-class redneck type of deal. We tried to carry ourselves with class, and I think that was the appeal.
What are your memories of your matches with Ron Garvin?
I wished many times I had just found a building to jump off of. He liked to kill me. It was, I don't know what to say. It stands out. I mean, there's a few guys that stand out. I mean, there's Buzz Sawyer. You know, I've been in fights with him that were just brutal. Ronnie Garvin is another one. Besides being just a great wrestler, Ronnie Garvin could stretch you with just his legs and just stand up over you, and he'd have you hooked with just his legs. His arms would be free. Slap you in the face, you know, chop you till your chest bled. But he didn't mind standing there taking it either. So
Right.
he's a guy I really respected and carried himself as a gentleman outside the ring. Yeah.
What about Nikita Koloff?
Again, Nikita and I butted heads a little bit at first. Nikita was smart. Let me just preface it by saying he was smart enough to know what he wanted from the business. He came in, he lived thrifty, he saved his money. He never missed towns. He worked hard, stayed in the gym. Guy had an incredible body. He had an incredible look. His intensity was up. And he got what he wanted out of the business, and he got out. And I respect that. He walked away instead of hobbling away, like a lot of us have. He and I butted heads on some occasions because he didn't treat some of the underneath guys properly. And I had a problem with that. I think he's had a change in heart lately, but in that particular time, there was a couple of verbal instances where he would come on the plane late, the private plane, and there'd be someone sitting there, and he'd order an underneath guy to their seat or something, and that didn't gel with me. So we had some problems.
Right.
Along those lines.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.